The screaming began at midnight. It echoed through the imperial palace of Draenhor, slipping through stone walls and armored corridors, making servants flinch and veteran warriors tighten their claws. This was not the thunderous roar of adult dragons that shook cities and broke armies. This sound was smaller, higher, and far worse. 3 baby dragons were dying. Emperor Valdres stood outside the sealed hatching chamber, his massive wings folded tight against his scaled body. For 3,000 years he had ruled the galaxy. He had burned rebel worlds, crushed empires, and watched stars die without hesitation. None of that mattered now. Behind the reinforced doors, his children screamed in pain and fear, and he could do nothing. They were miracles. After 5 centuries without heirs, his mate had laid 3 eggs. The Empire had celebrated for days when they hatched. That joy had lasted exactly 2 weeks. Now the hatchlings refused to eat. They attacked anyone who came near. They shattered equipment and wounded handlers. The smallest had not eaten in days. Highkeeper Sorrel emerged from the chamber, feathers ruffled, one arm bleeding. "It has not improved, Your Majesty," he said quietly. "They bite. They refuse food. The smallest is fading." Fear settled cold and unfamiliar in Valdres's chest. "Bring someone else," the Emperor ordered. "There is no one else," Sorrel replied. "We have tried every expert in the Empire." Valdres turned to the observation window. Inside, 3 small dragons huddled together, snapping at shadows. Their scales were dull. Their eyes were fierce, but confused, frightened. "Perhaps they are defective," an advisor suggested carefully. "Nature corrects." Valdres spun so fast the advisor stumbled back. "You will never speak of my children that way again." Dr. Oren, the palace physician, stepped forward. "There is nothing biologically wrong with them, Your Majesty. Their condition appears behavioral. Then fix it. Why have tried sedatives, forced feeding, isolation? Nothing works. They are unlike any hatchlings on record." A quiet voice spoke up. "Your Majesty, the humans." Ambassador Rena straightened. "They are primitive, yes, but they have an unusual talent. They calm dangerous creatures through patience and bonding. I watched one soothe a Renduk beast that had killed 3 handlers. The room fell silent. Renduk beasts were infamous. "You suggest," Valdres said slowly, "that a human care for my children. We have tried everything else." A crash echoed from the chamber. One hatchling slammed into the wall, crying out in distress. Valdres did not hesitate. "Bring me a human." Rachel arrived 3 days later in the middle of a storm. She stepped onto the palace platform, clutching her medical bag, feeling impossibly small. Everything here was built for giants. Even the rain felt heavier. Highkeeper Sorrel eyed her with open contempt. "You will fail." "Then let me fail quickly," Rachel replied. "Can I see the patients?" "They are not patients. They are predators. They are babies." That earned laughter. Through the observation window, Rachel saw them. 3 small dragons huddled in fear. One barely moved. "They are terrified," she said quietly. "You cannot know that," Dr. Oren scoffed. "I work with scared children." Rachel answered, "I know the signs." Emperor Valdres appeared behind them, his presence filling the corridor. "Can you save my children, human?" Rachel met his gaze without bowing. "I don't know, but I can try." "What do you need?" "No observers, no interruptions. Just me and them. That is suicide." Sorrel snapped. "Maybe," Rachel said, "but everyone else treated them like problems. I will treat them like children." Valdres studied his dying offspring through the glass. "You have 1 night." The door sealed behind Rachel with a heavy hiss. The room smelled of fear and sadness. The largest hatchling stepped forward, bearing tiny teeth. Rachel stopped 10 feet away, sat on the floor, turned slightly aside, and began to hum. A simple melody, soft, steady. Minutes passed. She did not move. Slowly, the largest hatchling took a step closer. Rachel kept humming. Another step. She matched the baby's curious chirps with gentle tones. When it sat, she knew she had succeeded. Sitting meant safety. She adjusted the room without rushing, warming the temperature, dimming the lights, laying her jacket on the cold stone. Then she lay down, making herself smaller. In the darkness, a tiny weight pressed against her back, the smallest hatchling, cold, weak. Rachel barely breathed as it curled against her for warmth. Another joined. Then the largest settled nearby, guarding but accepting. She hummed a heartbeat rhythm and gently shared her warmth, massaging the smallest stomach with practiced care. Hours passed. At last, the weakest hatchling lifted its head and made a hungry sound. Rachel fed it slowly. It ate. Outside, the palace watched in disbelief. At dawn, Emperor Valdrus entered the chamber. Rachel lay on the floor, surrounded by sleeping baby dragons. All three breathed steadily. Alive. "What did you do?" he whispered. "I kept them warm," Rachel said hoarsely. "I made them feel safe." Valdrus bowed his head. "You have saved my children." Rachel became their caretaker. They named themselves Ren, Ki, and Pip. They grew stronger, kinder, curious. Not everyone approved. Dr. Oren and Sorrel watched for mistakes. They found her past instead. 8 years ago, you killed patients. Oren accused before the Emperor. Rachel did not deny it. "I made a terrible mistake. I learned from it. She is reckless," Sorrel said, emotional. "Yes," Rachel replied firmly. "I am emotional. Because emotions are information. Your science was killing them. My care saved them." Before judgment could fall, 3 small dragons burst into the court, crying and scrambling toward Rachel. They calmed instantly in her arms. The court saw the truth. Rachel stayed. The attack came at night. Raiders breached the palace, aiming for the imperial children. Rachel ran through hidden tunnels with the hatchlings at her side until they were cornered. She turned and stood between them and the weapons. "You'll have to go through me." She was unarmed. Weak, she did not move. The roar that followed shook the stone. Emperor Valdrus descended in fire and fury, scattering the attackers. Sorrel was exposed as the traitor and taken away. Later, Valdrus knelt and wrapped his wings around his children for the first time. "I was a poor father," he admitted. Rachel smiled softly. "You're learning." Years passed. The babies grew into young dragons. Rachel trained others. Her methods spread across worlds. Humans became known not for weapons or ships, but for care. One evening, as the sun set over the palace, Pip rested his head on Rachel's shoulder. "You changed the galaxy," Valdrus said from the balcony. Rachel shook her head. "I just did my job." Valdrus watched his children safe and strong. "No," he said quietly. "You reminded us how to be gentle." And across the stars, a new saying spread. "When strength fails, send for a human."